I don't know what you could do to them that would cause tons of damage. There's so many mounting points. They're so thick. They're steel too. They're 65 pounds a piece, and they were a real chore to install. It was the biggest pain in the butt install of anything that I'd ever done. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's the biggest pain in the butt install of anything that I'd ever done. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Hey guys, I wanted to make a video on the Slee Offroad 4Runner sliders for people who may be considering these sliders, and also to give some install tips. This isn't a full step-by-step install video, but it does give you some nice additional information to go along with the directions provided by Slee. I'm sure you've seen Swellrunners' video on these sliders, and he goes into great detail about the styling, strength, and craftsmanship. Jason did a great job on his video, so I put a link in the description below. Alright, let's get started. So you're definitely going to need some tools. I recommend a nice socket set with a few different length extensions and a swivel attachment. I also recommend getting a threaded riv nut tool, which you see here in the blue case. You will also need a drill bit for drilling into the frame to install the 3 riv nuts. You can buy the drill bit directly from Slee. To be honest, before this project I had never heard of a riv nut and thought it was just a Jeep thing. All jokes aside, I want to point out that the riv nuts Slee sources are much higher quality than the ones that came with my riv nut tool. Using the riv nut tool is very easy. You screw the riv nut onto the top just enough so that all the threads are on. Then pull the handles down to expand the riv nut. At this point, the riv nut will be expanded and securely locked inside the frame of the 4Runner. You simply spin the bottom dial and it will release the tool from the riv nut. As far as the bolts, there's really only 2 different sizes. 14mm, which are the larger bolt and are used for the leg supports. And then 12mm, which are all the bolts that go into the frame. Alright, the passenger side is the only side that uses riv nuts. You need to drill 3 holes and insert 3 riv nuts. 1 hole is already threaded from the factory, making a total of 4 bolts going into the frame. After I drilled my holes, I used some touch-up paint to cover the fresh cut metal. It will be difficult to know exactly where to drill. Slee recommends putting your sliders up to the frame to know for sure. So inserting the riv nuts was straightforward, but I did feel like it required a lot of force, which I'm not sure is correct or not. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Next, you're going to unscrew the two brake line brackets. To get the slider up, you will want either a friend or a nice jack. When you install the leg support, make sure the brake line runs through the support and the support or bracket is on the outside edge of the slider. Continue to install bolts throughout the slider until it's completely installed. The driver's side is a fairly similar install. Instead of drilling the holes and inserting the rib nuts, you will use the bolt locations for the bolts that hold the factory gas tank skid and gas tank strap. It was very difficult to get a tool in to undo the gas tank strap. I ended up having to remove 2 additional screws on the other side of the gas tank skid, located in the middle of the vehicle. Once I could get the skid partially off, I had enough room to remove the screw holding the gas tank strap. Once I did that, the gas tank slid down towards the ground and I used the 4Runner's jack to hold up the gas tank. My biggest piece of advice is to do this on an empty gas tank. Unfortunately for me, my gas tank was completely full, so I had to deal with the entire weight of the gas tank. Now that you have the gas tank skid partially removed and gas tank strap removed, you will use those 4 holes on the bottom of the frame to mount the slider. Reattach the bolt through the gas tank strap and through the slider into the frame. Reinstall the 2 bolts holding the gas tank skid in the middle of the vehicle. You will have the slider next to the frame and the gas tank skid on top of the slider, with a bolt going through both. I ended up putting a washer between both sides of the gas tank skid. one last tip, the Slee directions tell you to remove these plastic plugs on the side of the frame. I ended up removing too many and destroying a few in the process, so only remove the plugs that get covered up by the sliders.